All right, it's official. We are live. Help a Teacher, Facebook Live every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central. Man, things are getting interesting. Things are getting interesting out there. All the back-to-school plans are coming together, and then they're changing, and then they come back together, and then they change. And, hey, real quick, before we get started, huge shout-out to all those educators in Montana. I had the wonderful opportunity to speak to Montana school leaders, superintendents, and principals, and you know what? They and of course it was virtually, but just to be in this on the same screen and connecting with those folks over in Montana that are just struggling hard. Just what a bunch of compassionate, incredible leaders trying to do the right thing, trying to make the best choices they could possibly make for their kids and their teachers and their communities. It was awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I loved the conference. Let's get it going, man. I am excited I met these guys just recently, and I'm fascinated with them. I'm such a huge fan, and I could not wait to share them with you. We have Andy Kane and Al Green. These guys this is what teaching is all about. These guys get it. It's all about using the content of your classroom to have an impact on who these kids are becoming. And yes, I want to stuff some knowledge into that kid's noggin for sure. But really what this whole thing is about is creating these high performing kids of exceptional character. And they are just great role models, great men in the classroom, serving in these heroic leadership positions with these kids. And they have a cool thing going on at their school, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear about it. It is what teaching is all about. Here we go. Let me bring them in. We have Andy Kane and Alasdair Green. And fellas, thank you so much for joining us, man. I cannot wait for everybody to get to know about what you guys going on with the Bell Leadership Group.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
What's going on, Andy?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
All right, man. So before we get into this, let me see if I can corral this conversation and facilitate it just a little bit. If we could start with Andy, tell us where you guys teach and what you teach, and then follow it up Al, with also what you teach, and then we're going to come back to Andy and we're going to dig into what you have going on with your boys in that school. Here we go.
All right, Hal, how's it going, man? We are super excited to be here. My name's Andy Kane. I teach 3rd grade at Bell Elementary, the most wonderful elementary school in all of Denton ISD. We are under some great leadership at Bell and Denton ISD, and I teach 3rd grade. I teach 3rd grade because I have to, and I do leadership because I feel like it's what I was called to do.
Awesome. And I'm very fortunate to teach at the same school. We both love being at Bell Elementary. I taught 3rd grade for 3 years, but have since moved up to 4th grade, focusing mainly on language arts, but going to be self-contained again this year. So excited about doing that and combining what we're doing in the classroom with all the great things going on in leadership.
All right, here we go. Let's dig into this. Andy, talk about leadership. Talk about, you guys are the co-founders, and tell us about this program. It is amazing. Okay,
so we work at a school called Catherine Coleman Bell Elementary. She was a leader in Denton for a long time. And Al and I worked together on the same team for the first year and the next 2 years after that. But the first year, we noticed a lot of really different type of behavior and some severe behavior issues with a lot of our older males and stuff that we were not okay with. It wasn't just run of the mill, like you get in trouble, you push somebody, you throw, wood chips at somebody, you call somebody a name, you tell the teacher no. Like, no, it was major, major behavior issues. And Al and I, we kept on having this conversation about, in what world is this going to be all right? And we just decided to be the change that we wanted to see. It's cliche, but it was absolutely true. And we're lucky enough to work on campus with 4 or 5 other men. And as a father of 3 daughters and a husband of a wife that works on campus, I just wasn't okay the way these boys were reacting to a lot of our female staff, a lot of our female students, and authority in general. There was very severe behavior. And so Al and I, we did a lot of digging, and I did some research and looked up some numbers, talked to our administrators, and we found out a lot of our severe behavior was coming from kids that were latchkey kids, that were kids that were going home to nobody. They were going home to a screen. They were going home to freedom that they probably were not mature enough to handle. And then when we dug a little bit deeper, found out those latchkey kids were products of single mother households. And my own kids for a little bit, my wife, before I met her, was a single mother, and she's amazing. She's Superwoman. And we got these great mothers, but there's just something to be said about the husband, the husband, mother, dad, father, mother, dynamic. And a lot of women, a lot of men do great jobs as single parents, but it's just something to be said for these boys needing a little bit of positive from the other side of the coin. And so Al and I talked about it, and we decided we need to do something. And we formed the Bell Leadership Academy, and Bell, being our namesake, and also Bell being an acronym for Boys Emerging as Lifelong Leaders. It's kind of patterned after a program in Denton that's been running for about 10 years called GOAL. And GOAL is Guys and Girls Operating as Leaders, run by a good friend, Chris Ice. And we just kind of met with them, and we talked about ways that we could positively impact our boys and lead them in ways that would be more effective.
Man, this is man, you know what, man, this is such an important conversation in that, I agree. When I look at my students, about half of them, I would say, have a father figure that's active in their life. Of all the thousands of students I had in my 20 years in the classroom, there's about 50% had an active father figure. And it had a lot to do with the different demographics of what I taught and where I taught. But of the ones that did, about half of those that did have an active, engaged father in the home, about half it was a positive experience. So we're looking at 25% of kids that have a positive, active male role model. And it's not to say that, you're right, man, I totally agree. It's not to say that a single mom can't do it, a single dad can't do it, two moms can't. What it is, I believe, and just my experience has been, our kids need, especially our young boys, need a variety of influences in their life. And one of those in that variety, if it's a strong, positive male role model, it really does work wonders. And at what point, Al, at what point did you guys come together and decide we're going to do something on this campus?
Oh, I mean, it was within weeks of the campus opening, because we noticed there was some explosive behaviors, the stereotypical big behaviors. There were some fights, but also we noticed the subtle things. Some of these boys in 4th and 5th grade didn't know that you should really hold the door open for a woman as they walk through. They didn't know that if a woman dropped something, more so than a male, you go and help them pick it up. So it's not necessarily that they were choosing to be disrespectful. They didn't know. They didn't have that guidance. So rather than see it as a negative or a blemish on their character, Andy and I and the other males on our campus saw this as an opportunity. What can we do? Here's somewhere we can make a real difference. And I don't know the exact time frame, but I think within 12 weeks of the campus opening, we had our first meeting and the ball was rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you started talking about this around campus, what was the feedback that you were receiving from other teachers?
How can we help? It was almost all completely positive. I never heard any negatives at all. People saw the potential in what we were trying to do. And what can we do to help? Do you need something material? Do you need some time? Do you need volunteers? Do you need speakers? It was all hands on deck, as it always has been and always will be at our school.
You know what? This is when the more I look at these types of programs, I just wonder why it's not happening everywhere. And you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
For lots of our kids, especially our boys, they just don't know. It's almost as if it's not a choice. This is just the reality of their life. This is just what they do. They don't know there are other options. They haven't had that influence. And to have a couple of strong male role models in their life that love them and have the compassion that they need and the understanding, yet the firmness and the discipline, it's an absolute life changer.
Right. I would agree with that 100%. Just the way, and we've evolved as we've gotten to know our students and how our students react and different ways that certain types of kids react. So there's 5 of us at our school. You know, we've kind of, you know, there's Al, myself, and there's Trent, who's been with us for a long time. And then there's Coach Wilcox. We call him old school because he's like about 90 and been around, you know, since Prohibition. But anyway, you know, and then we've got Orlando, and we're lucky enough to have an African-American male that is a positive male role model for us. We also have another African-American male, and they brought so much to our program, the experience that I, as a white male, will never have had. And it's really great to bring in people from different walks of life. We bring in guest speakers. I think one of the most important things about our program is actually our handshake. Our boys have never been taught how to shake a person's hand for the most part. I mean, like, we have great families, we have great, you know, kids, but I really wanted to make eye contact with my kids, shake their hand, ask them how they're doing, and then to reciprocate that in earnest. Like, I want them to sincerely ask me how my day was doing and then actively listen, you know, and then I want them to respond. I don't want them to be like, hey, what's up? How you doing, Mr. Kane? I'm fine, cool. And they walk off. No, I want them to be like, you know, and sometimes I test them. I'm like, hey, how you doing, Mr. Kane? Man, I'm having a really tough day. And they'd walk off, and I'm like, I knew that they weren't listening. How you doing, Mr. Kane? I'm having a tough day. Really? Mr. Kane, you're so happy. I'm like, well, you know, I have tough days too. And they were like, well, you know, can I help you? And that was a major thing for us. And it was something that, you know, that was really evolving throughout the year. They chase us down in the hallway and say, you know, how are you guys doing? How you doing, you know, Coach? How you doing, Mr. Kane? How you doing, Mrs. Welch? How you doing, Mrs. Kane? You know, Al and I both work with our wives in the building. And, you know, we saw the disrespect that a lot of our boys were giving to the female staff. And you know, I was really proud of the female staff, though. A year after we started a leadership group, the women started one too. So our school, I mean, phenomenal, exceptional, up and down the road. And we don't have the easiest school, but who wants easy?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want easy. I don't want the kid that makes me work for his trust, makes me work for his love and compassion. And I don't want a kid just to listen to me because I'm an adult. That was fed to me a lot as a kid. And I was, you know, I bought into it. My parents raised me well, but I mean, I was always taught to respect my elders, but you know, I just wanted kids to be able to understand that we are invested in you, and we have your back. But we're also going to love you enough to give you consequences when you need them.
Hey, well, I'm curious when, and I love this great point that there is a sister organization that is for the young ladies in the school. How do the 5th grade boys get into the program? Is there an application? Do they sign up? Do you recruit them? How does that happen?
So we do give them an application, a 2-page document. We have to get some references. Most of them take it home, fill it out at home. They have to have a character reference from a teacher. Now, of course, we accept pretty much anybody that applies. It's not about that. It's just they've got to start off knowing that this is something important, and you need to work for something important. And they enjoy it. They love it. I mean, we hand out those application forms, and within half a day, they're just being dropped off at our door. Can we turn this in now? Can we turn it in now? There's an excitement level when they get that permission form in their hand.
You know what I love so much about this whole story is I was doing a lot of this same work at the high school level with juniors and seniors. And I can tell you this, the way you describe your 5th graders, if there's no intervention, they came to me and they were exactly the same way at 16 and at 17 and at 18 years old, still unaware of how to shake hands, a proper greeting, you know, just a common courtesy and some of the chivalry that I don't know. So, you know, we're at a day and time where there's some pushback on that. And I get it, times are changing, but there's still something special about holding a door for a woman and let it, you know, and ladies first. And how to shake a hand. And I can tell you this, I wonder if you've had the same experience. When I taught my young men in high school about shaking hands and looking people in the eye and a firm handshake and a proper greeting and how to respond in kind, in earnest, what they would come back and tell me, they would say, hey, yo, Mr. Bowman, Miss Williamson didn't even know how to respond. I shook hands with her and looked her in the eye, and it freaked her out, man. She didn't even know how to talk back to me. And for some adults, it shocks them. They're not ready for this because they don't receive this from kids.
Right. And I would say the same thing, like, I have a 10-year-old son who's been in the program. We only let 5th grade kids in. We tried 4th and 5th grade a couple years ago. It was just too many kids for us to really impact each kid individually. But my son has been in since 2nd grade. And so he's got these skills built in, we do this at home anyway. But we went to Memphis. We went on a baseball trip. We went to Memphis to stop to eat, and he greeted the cashier. The cashier said, 13, 45, here's your total. And my son was like, ma'am, how are you today? And she almost started crying. She was like, nobody has asked me how I'm doing today. Nobody cares. And my son was like, oh, I care. And he's 10 years old at the time, 9 years old at the time. And I think if we had a little bit more of that going on in society, that we would be just a little bit better off. And so we're not trying to get any shine for our school or our program. We want more men to step up and do this. And I know that men, I'm sure there's a million of you guys out there doing amazing things. And our way is not the one size fits all. Like we're here to help. That's it. So.
Yeah. Hey, Al, when you have these kids in there and they're 5th grade boys, tell us a little bit about that metamorphosis you see when the kid shows up there in the beginning in August and September, and that transformation that happens within that kid by the time they leave the program at the end of May.
Yeah, so there's huge changes, but the changes are often small changes. That makes sense. Those kids went from being late to class because they want to hang out with their buddies outside of school to sometimes being late to class because Mr. Kane and I have a line of 15 kids at our door just wanting to shake our hand and ask us how we're doing. And both of us several times have had to sort of say, guys, the bell is going. I would love to talk to every one of you, but you'll be late. We see it in all the little actions around the campus. We see them looking out for each other. It doesn't just create a relationship between the male teacher and the boy. It creates a brotherhood between them. We have T-shirts, we have sweatshirts, we have hoodies, we have all of that. And when they're wearing it and they see somebody else wearing it, they look at that and there's just you've got my back and I've got yours. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. And this, people are asking, where is this again? It's Bell Elementary and Denton ISD. And Andy, are there any stories you can tell us, a particular kid without using anybody's name, of course, but where you have seen just a dramatic shift in that kid's life?
Yeah. I mean, like the first one, we'll just call him T. He's 5th grade and 2 years ago, he was in 3rd grade. And he and I would beef. I'm generally the hammer on my grade level. I'm the behavior guy. I'm the man. I got to step in and help these boys. And he and I beefed. We beefed in 3rd grade. We beefed in 4th grade. And he and I were not working out. And then I talked to him at the end of 4th grade. I was like, hey man, I want you in leadership. And when I said the words, I want you, his whole attitude changed. It wasn't like, hey, you're going to be in leadership. No, I want you. Like the teacher that he beefs with all the time wants him to be a part of something. And then when he got to leadership this year in 5th grade, man, I mean, I'm talking about a kid with trauma. I'm talking about a kid with a parent in jail. I'm talking about a kid who's lived a violent, past. And this kid was the poster child for amazing turnaround. Like he just wanted to know that we believed him. We had his back. He belonged to something. And when we did that, I mean, he wasn't perfect, but I mean, the 180 was amazing. Like he was kind. He'd come see me every morning. How you doing, Mr. Kane? I'm good. T, how you doing? He said, I'm great. He said, I'm happy to be here. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, were you happy to be here in 4th grade, 3rd grade? No, I hated school. Why do you like school so much? I don't know. I'm happy. And so it was just, and nothing's changed now. I'm like, he has a great mom, he has a great mom. Mom always, would text us and say, or email us and say, look, thank you so much. And I'm like, look, thank you for continuing to believe in your child, like not giving up. And you know, T will go down in the Leadership Hall of Fame, man. I love that kid so much.
You know what it is? Just listening to you guys talk, there's these basic kid needs. There's these certain emotional, deep needs that every kid has. And when a kid comes from a single parent home or from a difficulty or trauma in the background, there's certain needs that aren't being met if they're not in some sort of organization. When this becomes their family, you know, every kid has a need to feel connected. And so many kids don't have that in their life just because of circumstances and people are busy, and I get it. And you know, it's a challenging world in which to raise kids. But when they show up in Bell Leadership, they find that connection, they find that family that they don't have anywhere else. And another one is just the feeling significant. They feel like they matter because they're finally a part of something bigger than themselves. And some kids find that in traveling baseball, and you know, and some kids find that in their youth group at church, and some kids find that, you know, in the band. But for lots of kids,
and I'd like
there's
to jump
nothing.
Sorry, cut out there for me for a second. And what we find a lot with our kids is suddenly, for the first time in their life, they feel that their feelings are validated. You know, maybe they've been able to express, you know what, I miss my dad, or I miss my mom. My mom's working 3 jobs, and I get it, but I miss her. And they've had nobody they've been able to tell that to without feeling guilty. So we're able to validate those feelings for them. You know, it's okay to feel like that. Let's look at what we can do together. And suddenly they've got a neighbor beside them, another boy, another 3 boys who all have the same feelings. But there's never been a platform where they can comfortably share that and grow together. And that's really one of the main things we've been trying to do.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Andy, when you guys get together with the boys and bring them together, I have a feeling for a lot of them, maybe this is the first place that they feel like they can be vulnerable and be honest and really connect on that level.
Yeah, and you know what, and that takes a long time, really. I mean, and it's different for each kid. I always tell my kids, you know, I get up, you know, I speak to them, and you know, the way our meetings go is generally 9 times out of 10 we have a guest speaker that's, you know, powerful in the community, or an athlete, or, you know, a government leader, or just a regular guy that sells shingles. And the message that they hear is amazing. But like, some of the best meetings we have is when our guest speakers cancel, and we just get to like build relationships with our kids. Like they open up, and you know, we base our, you know, our meetings on our character traits. You know, I mean, there's a definite flow to our meeting. But the meetings where our guest speakers cancel, man, like I talk to Al every time after our meeting, and I'm like, dude, that was amazing. Did you know so-and-so did this? Do you know so-and-so, his dad, you know, left when he was a baby? Did you know so-and-so, you know, just, you know, got an award outside of school for his art program or whatever? It's really cool, just like building that relationship, getting to know them outside of academics, outside of just being like, you know, the people in charge. Like we're like, hey, I want to get to know you. And I also want to help you, but I also love you enough to like tell you when you're screwing up. But I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm going to be very honest with you. And I'm very to the point with my kids. Like they're never going to guess what I'm thinking ever. I'm pretty much the hammer, in the program. And Al, you like what the mallet?
Yeah, I'm the rubber mallet. I can do damage if need to, but try not to. I'm a little softer than that.
Yeah.
But you know, Al rounds out my hard edges, because I'm a kind of a disciplinarian. But I also, like, as I've gotten older and I've become a father, you know, my whole like, you know, philosophy has changed. Yeah. You know, I'm all about like dinners at home, all about, you know, I assign less homework. But I don't change who I am. You know, I believe that kids are responsible for their choices. But there's always a reason behind it. And I don't want to just, you know, like blanket statement every kid, like, hey, you're going to do this or that. I need to get to know the why. Why did you do this? And let me train you on up how to not do that again. So, I mean, it's time. And I have 4 kids. Al has 5 kids, but, you know, our other, you know, one of our other guys, Orlando, he has 4 or 5 kids. And, but we also have 65 kids in our group that count on us. So, you know, we give them a lot of our time for sure.
Hey, listen, man, we're going to have a lot of people that are going to wonder how they can do this at their campus. And I know there'll be a lot of inquiries. And is the best way to reach you guys on Twitter?
It's the best way to reach me personally. I'm pretty good on Twitter. You can email either one of us. Al has we have a Bell Leadership Instagram fledgling account.
Yes.
Our Twitter account's pretty strong. You know, we put most of our information out. If you guys if anybody across the globe needs anything from me or Al or any of the guys, we are here to help. I don't need anything from you. I want the men of the world to step up and be leaders, man. And I know a lot of you guys are, but man, I'm thankful for all of you guys, all you men, and all the women teachers, man. I love you too. I couldn't do it without you. So it's a pretty awesome program. I'm really proud of it. Like it's like a child to me.
It's awesome. Hey man, we really appreciate you guys being on tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hal.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You guys are awesome. Thank you for all you do, man. Take care, fellas.
Thank you.